Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of our Self-Publishing Mastery vlog. Today, I'm thrilled and happy and honored to have with me, Alinka Rutkowska. You've heard of her probably, or if you're really into boosting your career and being successful, because she's one of the experts who's most known and most active out there on the international market. And she's been the talk of the town lady because she's just made it to a USA Today best-selling list. And in the past, she's been a Wall Street Journal best-selling author. And she's also the host of the famous Author Remake podcast. And she's also the founder of Leader Press and other services she's created to help authors. So welcome, Alinka. Thank you for being here with us today. It's an honor.
Well, thank you so much, AG. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, so congratulations on your latest achievement, making to the USA best-selling list. That's amazing. And we will talk about how you made it, because one of your strengths and one of the things that you can help author is help them launch their books properly, have a proper book launch campaign, book launch event, and you'll tell us why it is important to have that. But for starters, I want to say that you're one of the people in the self-publishing industry that made it from, let's say, nobody dumb, although you had a flourishing career. But so in the beginning, nobody knew about you as a self-publishing expert, as an author. And so you've made it to that nobody dumb in that field to stardom today. So how was your journey from being employed, from working in a different field of expertise and publishing, into becoming a best-selling author and a self-publishing expert?
Well, thank you, AG. You know, it hasn't been a straight line to where I am. Back in 2010, I was working in a multinational corporation, and I really enjoyed doing it. My background is in business. I studied in business school, so I was really excited to work for the multinational corporations. But then I reached a point where things changed. I felt like I hit the glass ceiling. They were offering me jobs that I didn't want. They couldn't fire me. I was unfireable because of the contract that I had, but it was just very difficult. I wasn't excited. I completely lost enthusiasm. I lost the enthusiasm that I had when I first came on board. And, that's not a good thing when Friday comes and you're happy because you have 2 free days, and Sunday evening you're already starting to dread that you're going to have to wake up on Monday morning and do things you don't want to do. So that's not a good feeling. And I guess I felt this internal desire to write a book. I've always been a writer as a child. I was very good at writing essays, and I always had a diary. So it's something that I always liked. And I remember I decided to write this book. It was a self-help book that I sort of wrote for me as I was growing on this journey. And one of my colleagues told me that, there's this guy, Tim Ferriss. He published a book by himself. That was the 4-hour work week back then. And that just inspired me so much. I thought, well, I can just publish a book by myself. I don't have to ask anybody for permission. And I loved the idea of it. So it's just so exciting, to, be inspired by Tim Ferriss. And now we're on the same charts competing, for the same position years later. So it's just really, incredibly satisfying. Well, I wrote that book, I published it, and it did very well. Actually, the royalties of that book were larger than my corporate salary at the time.
Wow. So just one second. So that was your first book. So because I think that 95% of authors they just, don't do very well with their first book.
I
They
know.
struggle with it. You know that because you're working with them and you help them.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your secret? What did you do? I mean, you were a first-time author.
I know. Well, I had some business background.
Okay.
I mean, not relative to book marketing, but to business and marketing in general. So that helped for sure. I think, that was 2010. So that was also different. The landscape was different. It wasn't as crowded. Self-publishing just started. It wasn't even cool yet. I mean, it was still regarded as, a subpar way to publish. Now we have all these hybrid publishers and service publishers, and the books are, I mean, you can't really tell the difference between a top hybrid or service publisher. You can't tell the difference between those books and the books of a traditional publisher. At the time, it wasn't, still wasn't cool. Well, I guess I tried a lot of things. It was trial and error. A lot of it was trial and error, and a desire not to give up. Now, when I look at it, something I did was I put a very long subtitle in the book, and I used a lot of keywords without knowing it.
So that's what triggered your success. I mean,
I think that was a big part of it. I had no idea that I was doing that at the time. But, sort of looking back and reminiscing and trying to understand how it all worked, I think that was a big part of it. And the book, was interesting.
What's the title?
I no longer talk about it, but it still exists.
Okay.
It still exists. It's fine. It still exists on Amazon. You'll see the publication date is 2010.
Okay.
It's called Read Me, I Am Magical. And then there's a long subtitle about, what you're going to get out of this book.
Right.
So that was it. It was selling really, really well back then. And that was one of the reasons why I decided to leave the corporation.
Wow.
And, I also got I didn't just leave. I also got a nice package as I was leaving, because as I mentioned, they couldn't fire me, but we agreed that if they make it worth my while, I will stop bugging them. So I decided to go on a trip around the world, and I met my husband on a cruise ship. And from there, I, started feeling that I wanted to become a mom, and I started writing these books for children about, picture books about two children traveling on a cruise ship. And I was publishing those books and marketing them and doing a lot of things. A lot of things worked, a lot of things didn't work. And as I was, doing them, I would document that in, online. And I realized that there was just so much demand for this knowledge. And I was writing articles, and somebody, I wrote this really, really long article about, that sort of explained almost everything I did. And somebody was like, can you just put this in book form so I don't have to keep scrolling? And I was like, okay. So I put together how I sold 80,000 books. And this came out in 2015. And this was the book that really positioned me as a book marketing expert. So I think, it's really true that when you publish a book, it's a statement, it's a calling card. You really, you've got a book, you are the expert. You've got a best-selling book, you are the expert and a best-selling author, which makes it even more exciting for people to talk about you. And since then, I've been very active in helping authors succeed. So that's really become my number one thing. And you mentioned a few websites, a few things I do, but my main things is, Leaders Press is where I work with CEOs, presidents of companies, and we get the books, the ideas out of their heads and interview them, publish it, launch it. So this is very exciting for me because it's creating a book that I've always loved to do, and business and marketing it. So I just get super excited when I get to work with these people. Plus they're so smart because I learn so much from them about business that already interests me. So that's one thing. Another thing is I run a mastermind for authors. which I also love because, these are Zoom calls like this, only more faces that you can see. And we talk about things that I love to talk about, about book marketing, and people share their wins and what they've done, that what they've implemented since we've last spoken. And then another thing that I do is I connect indies with libraries through Library Bub. So I think those are the three main. Then I do other things, but those are things that I'd say distinguish me mostly from from everybody else out there. And I also want to say that it's a great community, because Write and Grow Rich is not only my project. I mean, I led it, I managed it, I dreamed it to life, but we were 24 authors who collaborated to make this happen.
Yeah, I want to talk about the book and how you made it happen, and how other authors could, let's say, follow your model to get their books at least on the best-selling list on Amazon. But first of all, because you mentioned the help you're giving authors to connect with libraries, I noticed through my experience as a speaker and moderated at conferences in Southern California, and also working with authors, the majority of them, and you can please correct me if I'm wrong, they have Amazon. So when they think about publishing a book, most of them, they think Amazon, and they stop there. They don't think going wide, and certainly they don't think about libraries. But why is it important for an author to have their book in libraries? And so what's the opportunity there?
Well, there's a lot of opportunity. First of all, you're doing a good thing, because there are people who can't afford to buy books. So you allow them to, either learn from you if it's nonfiction, or experience some great writing if it's fiction. So, you're doing a good thing for the world. And then you never know who's going to come into a library and look at the books. It could be potentially, a foreign rights agent who'd say, wow, I think I can sell the rights to this book. Or it could be a Hollywood movie producer who would say, wow, I think I want this book. And, not necessarily they're looking for a book at the moment. It's not like they're working, but maybe they came in with a nephew or a niece, and while the nephew or niece are looking at children's books, they're taking a stroll along the other shelves, and something catches their eye. So there's plenty of opportunities. Plus, usually authors do more than one book, and you're able to reach your target audience with the one book. And if you have a call to action inside the book, you invite them to join your mailing list, then you're able to sell them your other books. So, it's a really great, it's a great way to find more readers, to open yourself to new opportunities like the foreign rights, or potentially a movie deal even, and to find readers who will purchase your other books.
And in terms of revenues for authors?
In terms of revenue, I wouldn't say that it's huge in terms of revenue, because a library will probably buy one copy to start with and see how it's doing. One copy will be probably checked out about 200 times before it falls apart, and they want to buy a new copy. But we mail 10,000 librarians, so if a fraction of these buy your book, then you have the royalties from that purchase, and then potentially you're getting those readers who check the book out. That from one book, you have 200 people checking it out. A percentage will sign up to your mailing list and check out your other books. So all of this just becomes amplified as time goes on.
Yeah, so it's not just about getting instant money. It's just about building a relationship with your readers and with these librarians, and it's about thinking long term, not short term. So what authors can do to submit their books into your program or to use your service? Are there any criteria, selection criteria from your part?
Mm-hmm. Well, the website is librarybub.com/authors. And the criteria are, well, we want to recommend good books to librarians. So authors usually screen themselves because, we want the book to, have a good cover, good title, look professional, and have some reviews. Editorial reviews would be great, but, customer reviews are also important. And, if it's got awards or is a #1 bestseller in a category or has been, that really attracts librarians. And, even if librarians buy from, Ingram or Baker and Taylor, they go to Amazon to check the book out. They want to see what it looks like before they, head over to their favorite places where they purchase the books.
Yeah, so again, marketing is so important, and getting your book on a bestseller list is not about vanity or about sales, it's about visibility as well. So so because you were a first-time author once, what can a first-time author do now, or what, considering the current self-publishing landscape, so what should they do to be successful, other than working with a coach like you? But for those who want to take things like on their own, what would be the first 3 major steps do you think they should take? And then we can talk about the book launch.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've noticed that there's a wealth of wisdom in books. So take this one, for example, how I sold 80,000 books. There's a lot here. And I've had authors email me saying that I inspired them to publish a book. I inspired them to start their author career, even though they've never, joined any of my programs or taken advantage of any of my services. They tell me that, I was the one who inspired them. So that's a reward in itself. And, it's huge. Working, with those incredible authors that we publish, there's just so much knowledge and wisdom in these books. It's just amazing. And, a book costs a few dollars. And you get somebody's, a lifetime of somebody's wisdom. So this book, Write and Grow Rich, is also a great start, where 24 authors answer the same questions of what worked for them, what didn't work, and then from there you can subscribe to their mailing list and see what they have to offer. And there are other books on self-publishing and book marketing. So definitely read those books, but also as you're reading, create an action plan of what you're going to implement, because you don't want to have paralysis by analysis, right? So you have to actually do something. And I think a target is great. I respond very well to targets. So, now I run a business, and it doesn't feel like you're running a business when you have one book out. But at a certain point, it stops becoming just a hobby and just for fun. And like in my case, this is what I do now, and this is my thing. So, if it's a business, and really, if you have a book out there, you have a product that you're selling. So you do have a business. So targets, I think, the targets could be how many books you want to sell. I have targets of how many new authors we want to publish. So, we have team meetings where we discuss how we can meet those targets. And it's just amazing, because as soon as we introduced these targets, we started reaching these targets. Before, we didn't have the targets, so we were just like, oh, no, whatever comes along, it's all good. Because we were still in the, we're just starting, and it's just fun. So, it's just fun type of thing. But, now with the targets, it's still fun, but it's also structured. So a target doesn't have to be book sales or revenue. A target can be, a word count, for example. In November, there's NaNoWriMo, where people are writing novels with a word count of 50,000 words. If you divide that by 30 days, that's about 1,700 words a day. That can be a target. So if you're looking to, first you have to create that asset, the book, to be able to publish it and to sell it and to benefit from it. So targets. I don't know if everybody's as driven by targets as I am. I guess not, because everybody's different. But I read some books on psychology that when you do have a target and you work towards reaching it, it's much more probable that you actually will reach it.
Yeah, no, I think targets are great, and I think they can help us focus our energy. So when we focus on something, on achieving something, then we become so much more powerful. So thank you, that's great. You mentioned I can't help but admiring your talent for picking book titles, and also for picking names for your business. I mean, Write and Grow Rich, I already told you, I find the title fabulous, because it reminds me of the book Think and Grow Rich of Napoleon Hill. And I know that it's an effort of yours and other self-publishing experts. But I want to know first, before talking about the book and about the launch, how did you create this network of, let's say, friends, collaborators? There are famous people out there. You've been on, so Joanna Penn, you've been on Jesse Krieger's summit. Am I right? Yeah. So that's how I found out about you, like 2 years ago, I think. And I said, oh, I must follow this lady, because she's got something really valuable to share with the community. But you didn't know all these people in the beginning, and I know that you're also a speaker at events. So how can someone build such a network of friends, collaborators?
Right. So I think it's a good idea to start with a book. So, have that book out there. That is your business card. They can always refer people to, and start a mailing list. Because when you start a mailing list, because when you have those two assets, the book gives you credibility, and the mailing list, it gives you a reason for, somebody else to collaborate with you. So, for example, you mentioned Jesse. I don't remember exactly how we met now, although I don't remember how we met. But what I could have done possibly was, see that he's spoken at a summit somewhere, and reach out to him and say, hey, we're in the same space. I wrote this book, and a link, because then that's the credibility and authority piece. And say, I see you're really active in the publishing landscape. I think my audience would really benefit from your expertise. And I'm doing this summit, because I did a summit, or you could say podcast or blog or whatever, and I'd love to showcase your expertise to my audience. So, that's the best way to reach out to people, because I'm not asking him for any favors. I'm actually giving him visibility. And then, when he does that interview or blog post or whatever, he gets to drop a link where people can sign up if they want to. So you start like that. You build some goodwill, and then, at a certain point, either, the law of reciprocity, he reaches out, he's like, I'm doing a summit, come and speak, which happened several times. I think I spoke at 3 of his summits at least, in one live in Los Angeles. And so then it's, easy to invite people to something like that. Although Jesse wasn't actually in Write and Grow Rich.
No,
but,
he wasn't.
No, he wasn't. He was invited to, but then in the end, he said his plate is full and he's not able to meet the deadlines. He was, so. There are 24 authors, but I reached out to many more. So, some people didn't want to participate. Others, couldn't meet some of the deadlines that we had, because, this was a big project. There was a deadline to submit the chapter, for example, that people had to write.
I know that you had Jason Biled. And he was on our Self-Publishing Mastery Summit online last year. And I know he's a great resource when it comes to book reviews. I mean, he's really amazing and so successful. So yeah,
he was actually the one who first saw that we hit the list, because he lives in Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
So he was still awake when they published that list. So, I'm in Italy. So when I woke up and, I got an email from him, and I thought, well, I think this is good news. So
That's
I
great.
opened his email, and I will never forget that it was him who actually notified me that we hit the list.
Okay. Yeah. So that reminds me that I need to email him to congratulate him too for the success of the book. So if you go to Amazon, of course, you can find the book, Write and Grow Rich, and you can find out who the other authors in the books are. I know Dave Chesson from Kindlepreneur. He wrote a raving review for your book.
He wrote a review. He wasn't in the book because he was working on some software.
Yeah.
As he always is. But he wrote a great review.
Yeah. I follow him, and he occasionally writes for Self-Publishing Mastery. So he's one of the guys who's always got something interesting to say.
So he's got some great resources, especially the geeky ones.
Yeah, and keyword and categories.
Yes. He's the guy to go for that stuff.
Yeah. So I'd love to have a summit like that, but a real one. I mean, a real, not online, but somewhere in the US at some point, with him and you and Joanna Penn, and then Rachel Thompson, and there are some other great people out there. I mean, that would be a smash hit. No writers conference had all you guys in one place at once. So that would be quite an event.
It all starts with a dream and with an idea. And I guess for something like this, what would be important is planning like a year in advance.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And Mark Dawson and the list can continue. Let's get back to your book. So you had a dream about making to the USA Today bestsellers list, and you made it. So what did you do to make it there? And let's talk about the launch. So because I know that launch can make or break a book. So in your case, it really made it a success.
Mm-hmm. Well, I ran a 1-hour webinar where I explained a lot of this, but so some of the important things were deadlines and a schedule. So there was a deadline for, when to get people on board, when people have to submit their chapters. There was a mailing schedule. So when is everybody mailing? And people had to commit to that schedule that they actually will be mailing. And there was swipe copy, that I wrote. So everybody who was supposed to mail, they didn't have to actually write anything themselves. They could just copy paste what I prepared. And there were some ads going on, but our 2080, most of our results came from mailing, and it was either us mailing or other influencers mailing that were not in the book, but that we reached out to, and some promotional sites. And very important thing, the pre-order period, because we had a very long pre-order period, actually. We sold almost 10,000 books that week, but out of those 10,000, so 10,000 overall. In the States, it's going to be 8,000, and out of those 8,000, more than 5,000 we accumulated during almost 6,000 we accumulated during the pre-order period. So that's huge. If you want to hit a list like USA Today or Wall Street Journal, the pre-order period is crucial, because you have to get the estimates are about 6,000 sales to hit the bottom of the list. The bottom of the list is 150. We actually hit 68, which is very good. So the estimates are that you need 6,000 sales to hit that list, and the sales of a single week count. So if you're just doing a promotion for a week, you would have to sell about 1,000 copies a day.
Wow.
But if you're doing a pre-order period like we did of 3-4 months, then if you sell 50 copies a day, you're going to get there. So we actually entered launch week with already 6,000 copies sold in the US. So we were pretty comfortable. I mean, it was a pretty good place to be. So, those are sort of the main, helicopter view secrets, if you will. So the pre-order period, the people that you get on board, the deadlines, and the schedule.
I want to mention that because since I'm on your mailing list, so I got your emails, and there's a lot to learn from those emails, starting with the copy, because so I've also been on your Author Remake podcast, and the suggestions you made about my sales blurb of my book I Choose Love, I already implemented those, and thank you. So
There you go.
You are really great at it. So
thank you.
So there is another thing about the pre-sales, because people who bought the book during the pre-sale time, they had additional incentives, so they got something, like a special.
I almost forgot about that.
So
we all threw in some bonuses that we were heavily marketing, that if you get the book, then you go to a website and you get loads of bonuses. And after the launch, we stopped mentioning that at all.
Yeah, so that's another thing you can consider if you're doing pre-orders. I've learned it from Alinka, just being on her mailing list. And what are you doing now to keep the sales go?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Well, the book sort of found its place on the ranks, on the charts. It's doing really well. We're selling probably about 100 copies a day still, not doing too much. There's some Amazon ads running, some BookBub ads still. I mentioned it in my newsletters, in my signature. So there's that. There's also a link to the book in the emails, in my personal emails that I send out. So, I mean, I say nothing because it just seems so effortless, but actually there are those seeds spread out, everywhere. What else? Well, the book is visible. I mean, there's obviously, it's been mentioned on the USA Today and Wall Street Journal, so I guess some people came from there. And it's actually doing so well that we're getting spontaneous offers from foreign publishers to buy the rights. I mean, I have a foreign rights agent who goes to the large book fairs and is she herself is in negotiations with various foreign publishers to get the rights. But I was approached by one publisher just a few days ago, asking if the rights for their country are still available. I said, "Oh, I think so. Let me connect you with my foreign rights agent." And then she replied, "That was the fastest proposal in history, where I think after a few hours, they just sent an offer." And she's like, "What do you say?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know. If you say it's good, then let's do it." It's like, "Okay, I'll negotiate a little bit." But it was just, so fast. And I wasn't doing anything. I mean, I have a foreign rights agent I work with a foreign rights agent who's taking care of that. But it's just so nice to receive an email like that of, a serious foreign publisher interested in publishing the book. And I think I saw in the offer that they want to do a first run of 3,000 copies, which doesn't seem so many because, we did. I stopped keeping track. Now I was keeping track like crazy until launch. So, I mean, we sold 10,000 books until launch, and now I haven't really looked too much. So, the 3,000 that they want to publish are not so many, relatively, but still, I mean, it's great. It's free money.
Yeah. And anyways, you can compare, I mean, the English-speaking market, book market, with just the local ones, because automatically, if you go to a smaller country, so I was born in Romania. So in Romania, like somebody like an author who's selling 2,000 copies of a book is considering like a platinum seller, or something like that. That's a huge number for such a small country. But as you say,
right, everything is relative.
Yeah, so it's free money. So why not? Plus, you get a chance to help other authors or to reach other readers. So that's really That's really wonderful. So
Mhm.
the mailing list seems to be still in 2018, and probably it will stay in 2019, one of the most powerful marketing tools.
Mhm.
What other marketing tools would you recommend, one or two, the first that comes to your mind for people to use?
Right. Yeah, something even more archaic, the traditional mail. So something that I'm doing now, that we just started actually this month, is and to a very select audience. I mean, those are my high profile prospects. We're mailing a newsletter to their door, on paper.
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't have any results of it yet, but I'm thinking, I've been thinking about it for 2 years that I should start mailing, paper stuff. And actually, as part of the 5-Figure Author Challenge, when somebody gets the VIP pass, we email them a, a book of all the transcripts and everything in there. And that's been super popular. So people, loved it, that they didn't just get an all access pass that they could, see the videos online, but they actually got, something that arrived to their home and, that they have. So I have a lot of addresses of those people who ordered, because obviously, they gave us their addresses where to send the book. So I could potentially mail them as well the paper newsletter. But I know it took me so long to do these things that it's not something obvious, to do. But it's just so neglected. All you get right now are just advertisements and bills. So if
Yes.
you actually get something of value, by mail, you're really looking forward to it and appreciate it. So that's great. The email lists. And what else could be great for a new author? I think a plan. So what you're going to do and when. I think that's really important. So going back to those targets, and I think that you can. We talked about books, that there's a lot of wisdom in books, and I think the way to consume them is to have your grand plan, read a book, and see how that fits into your plan, and apply that bit to your plan, rather than just keep reading and overwhelming yourself. Just start with a plan and then and adjust. But there's nothing better than having a mentor. And I'm not saying that because I am a mentor, which I love, but because I have a mentor.
You do.
And
You still
yeah,
need one.
I do. And if I hadn't had a mentor, I wouldn't have founded Leaders Press, which is what really excites me. And I love helping authors through what I'm, what I was doing until we founded Leaders Press. But it just takes me to a completely new level. It's just a completely new ball game, and I don't think I would ever have come up with this big idea. So basically, what I got is this big idea, or his name is Dean Jackson. So he gave me this big idea, or as he calls it, an evil scheme, and I implemented it. When I told him about Write and Grow Rich, he's like, "Oh, so you have an evil scheme of your own." So I come up with big ideas as well, and I come up with big ideas for the authors I work with. But I don't think I would have come up with Leaders Press from where I was standing at the time. But he did see it from where he was standing. So it's just that you have a completely different perspective. I see things. Just this morning I had a call with with CEO of a company who was interested in doing a book with us, and he just had so many questions that were so basic to me. Like, what are the royalties that Amazon gives you?
Oh,
Just
yeah.
crazy funny stuff that everybody knows, and just things that I told him about the publishing and the marketing of the book. He just doesn't see them. He obviously has a vast amount of knowledge in his,
Field,
niche
yeah.
and what he's doing. So there's things I have no idea about. But it's, you just can't see certain things from where you're standing. You have to, go to somebody who's already at the, how can you say it, at the, deck, who's standing on the, on the deck, where there's a viewpoint. So they actually see everything. They see it completely differently. So, really one of my best investments, and it was one of the largest investments I'd ever made. But just the return on it is just so huge. So I'm a huge believer of, something else I learned from the CEOs that we work with is that you learn through mistakes or mentors. So, either you make mistakes, trial and error, you make mistakes, or you have a mentor, who's already made those mistakes, or who has a completely different view and can help you get there much, much faster. So I think, that's a very interesting thought to consider.
Yeah, and especially trial and error will also cost you some money, and definitely it will take time. So
I think my trial and error cost me more than my mentor cost me.
Okay, so now you have the information, and you can choose what's best for you being in the now. I'm sure you had some like tough moments, tough times, moments of doubt, moments when you felt you had too much on your plate. So what kept you going? How do you keep your enthusiasm alive all the time, like doing all that you do?
Well, I think I'm self-driven. I'm a self-driven type. I chose to do this. I love doing this, so it's easy. I didn't have all this enthusiasm when I was about to leave the corporation. When you're doing something you love, you're not really working, you're just having fun.
True.
When I have too much on my plate, well, I have a team. So I think, what can I delegate and to whom? If I feel like I don't have a person and I'm thinking about, how to get the right person on board. So I think you really need that. And, and again, like we're a team of 10. So that's different than when you're an author who's just starting out. But if you're an author who's just starting out, you can think about hiring out one virtual assistant to help you with some basic tasks and make that work. So I think that's a good idea. And when, it feels like things are not working out, I just, try not to be so hard on myself. And I just tell myself that things always work out for me. Because it's true. When I look back, things have always worked out for me. Even if not necessarily the way that I thought they would, they have. So it's really easy for me to hold that thought because it's true. So when you say things always work out for me, and you even think that, it's true, they do work out for me, it takes away the pressure.
Yeah, that's a great insight. Thank you. And I also want to remind those who watch this interview, we mentioned that in the beginning, so you're also a wife and a mom, and you still have the time for your professional life, but you also take the time for your family life, which is great. So to those people who worry, oh, I don't want to run a business, or I don't, maybe I won't have the time for everything. Well, you're the living proof that it's possible.
Yeah, it's possible. I'm certainly not the only one.
Yeah. So that's been a great conversation. Thank you very much. I don't know, the time just flew by. So what is the best way for others to reach you and get in contact with you in case they need a mentor or they want to check your programs?
Well, I think the best way is to go to authorremake.com, which is my hub. And then you can sign up and get a mini course where I explain what the number one obstacle is that could be keeping you from becoming a successful author.
Thank you very much and good luck.
Well, thank you so much, AG. And thank you again for your shout out during our Write and Grow Rich launch. I appreciate that a lot. So thank you.